Oh, there's a patch preview now. Systems. This patch seeks to make mid lane in particular a bit more interactive through nerfs to Second Wind, Door and Shield, a small nerf to Catalyst. We still like it being strong as situation option for typical immobile mages to hold off Assassin's Yard skirmishers. We acknowledge that this is probably going to require some follow-up adjustments to top lane. Top lane is going to request and we're sitting with a preemptive nerf to Quinn. Okay, nerfs to Second Wind, Door and Shield. Okay, so nerf to regen in general. Wouldn't be cautious that these changes would have wide-ranging impacts for the playoffs meta, and so feel more comfortable making these changes now. Gwen. Despite our best efforts, our Gwen changes haven't had the effect. Oh, wait, we're in game? Oh shit, we're in game! But as soon as I start looking at it, we're in game. Okay, we're in game. I see the small Dino on my screen. Okay, Euphoria, we got it now. We got it. EU's gonna win now. Patch 25.21 full preview. Let me quickly put a marker for my editor here. Okay, Dr. Mundo is showing up frequently in our frustration service as the most, or at least one of the most frustrating champions. Thank you, Alois. Thank you, Alois. He sports a pretty average win rate and a pretty shallow mastery curve, so he's not overpowered, but players have been pretty frustrated by him. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. We're making some power neutral adjustments to make his late game bunking a little less oppressive. But in return, he'll be able to go where he pleases a little better. Okay, so I'm guessing he does less damage, but a little bit tankier, maybe? Not sure. Graves is much more popular in China than the rest of the world, but despite that, his popular elsewhere has taken quite a bit of a drop. We're looking to add back one of the feels-good changes that make him a little bit more general and bruisery, as without it, he's not able to hit the thresholds to play some of those bruisery builds. Yunara. We're making changes to Yunara to give more power to her W max second, which is supposed to be utilized better by regular players, and can feel relatively limp when not being maxed. W rank doesn't affect our W damage. We're also moving Yunara's E from being a short burst repositioning tool and removing the decay. Okay. Bard's tanky builds have been the norm for quite a while. We're making his AP build slightly more viable. While we don't hate that he's building Denmark's plate, he does love running around a lot. It would be nice if AP was a bit better on him. Kiana from Ixtal is a bit too strong in the jungle and a little strong to mid as well. Our changes nerf her repeated farming speed a little bit. Q does a lot more damage. Q does a lot more damage to monsters. But otherwise, she's brought a lot of life back into the jungle. Okay, let's have a look at changes. Bard. W AP heal AP ratio goes from 30 to 60% to 47%. W move speed AP ratio goes 5% to 6%. That's an interesting buff. Curious to see if you'll actually build more AP on Bard. Liandry's, you know. It's pretty much the only AP item that I see built on Bard. I don't know what else you would build. There's just not that many competitive AP items. So kind of just build like tank. 80 growth on Estral, up by 0.5. I think this change is bigger than the Estral mains think. Because 80 growth, super impactful on champions that build Sheen, that build Triforce. And in general, Ezreal needs a scaling buff. He's really good in the early game. And this is exactly, like, this gives him that scaling buff that I think he really wants. And will help him a lot in those sticky situations where you're getting to 2-3 items and you didn't feel that strong as before. It's going to be like level 3, one more AD, you know. Level 5, 2 more AD. I think that's impactful. At level 10, you know, it's 5 more AD. It's not bad. I really think it's not bad. And then Kalista 80 growth also up by 0.5. That one I think is a little bit worse because I think Kalista is a lot worse than Ezreal, and she also doesn't have like Sheen or anything that she buys to make that more use out of it. And I think Kalista just needs more help than Ezreal does. I think while Ezreal also does have really bad win rate, I think Ezreal is much closer to being stronger. He just needs a little bit better scaling. While Kalista is like pretty kneecapped. Yone up 2 base AD. This is because they're nerfing D-Shield and Second Wind, so it makes sense that they're buffing him. Curious that they're not like buffing Yasuo in the same bow. I also think buffing the base AD doesn't really make sense. Like you're nerfing the regen, so it would make more sense to give him some defensive power rather than more damage, in my opinion. Yunara, W hit damage goes up by a lot base ranks, but is now bonus AD instead of total AD. They're essentially, what they're doing with this is just trying to make it so that it's much more valuable to put points in the W. And that way, they want people to max W second, essentially with Yunara. I'm not sure why. I think it's because they feel like people in Pro are way better at using E, while people in lower ranks are fine with using the W. So they just want people to max W. And that's really what they're trying to push for here, with just making it a lot stronger. And then the E move speed no longer decays. But the cooldown is up by 1.5 seconds. And E now properly loses its enhanced move speed when turning away from enemy champions, and RW damage goes down. It says this is usually a nerf, so RW damage is now going down. Okay. And then Diana, champion. So for the nerfs here, Diana just does 20% less damage to monsters with her passive. I feel like they could have went harder here on Diana. She's pretty damn OP in solo queue. Kog'Maw, Q passive attack speed goes down by 5%. Random nerf to Kog'Maw. I barely see him at all, but I guess in those niche games where people do play him, he's good. Morgana, armor growth goes down by 1.2. Diana, health growth go down by 3. And the Q damage goes up by 5% bonus AD. Very light nerfs to Kiana. Very light nerfs to Kiana, to be honest. Q bonus AD ratio on Quinn goes down by 20% max rank. And the R damage total AD goes down. No, wait. R damage goes from being 70% total AD to now having a base damage and 35% bonus AD. So that looks like a pretty big nerf to Quinn. That looks like a pretty big nerf if my math is mathing here. I'm happy to see the nerf Quinn. She's been really, really OP in solo queue. Just runs around the map, kills everybody. It's very obnoxious. Dr. Mundo armor growth goes from 3.7 to 4.5, and E active bonus HP ratio goes from 7% to 5%. So yeah, gets a little bit tankier, does a little bit less damage. Bada bing, bada boom. Graves base magic resist goes from 32 66.85 to 30 to 52.1, but E now gives MR. So pretty nice buff to Graves here. You're going to be spamming your E now, getting a lot of MR. Gwen reverted back to 25.05 version of the champ, except for armor growth and passive monster damage, which remain unchanged. What the fuck? They did a full revert of Gwen. Skarner pushed to the next patch, okay. System nerfs, Catalyst of Eons, 50 less HP. Makes sense, HP second a bit OP. Second Wind heals less now, just a nerf to Second Wind. That's pretty nice, but this doesn't look... I think they spelled it wrong. Healing after taking damage, 4% of missing health. Plus 3 equal... Oh no, it's... Yeah, so they removed the plus 3. It's just 4% of missing health now. Doran's Shield, max healing after taking damage, goes down by 5 on melee. And Doran's Blade, lifesteal removed, new passive heal for 2.5% of damage dealt. Reduced to 33% of this value for area of effect spells, pet spells. I think this is a buff to Doran's Blade. I think this is a buff to Doran's Blade, to be honest. Because you're, especially on champions that do mixed damage, that before wouldn't be affected by lifesteal, and do spell damage, I think this is a buff. Maybe for champs that don't do that at all, like Draven, it's a nerf, but I think for a lot of ACs it's a buff. Doran's Ring now gives less mana, but it gives more mana when you hit champions, essentially. And I think this is a nerf for Doran's Ring. Pretty big nerf for Doran's Ring. Okay.